And if the lights go off, we know how to put it on again. Okay, that's the good news. So welcome everyone. It's good to see so many of you here. I'll just give you a little bit of background because you might wonder who this guy is. Most of you don't know me. Some of you do know me, but most of you don't. And before I give you a bit of a bio, let me explain. This will be interactive more than me standing up here and talking to you, okay? Because I'm one person and we've got 50 people here. So 50 people have more intelligence and wisdom than I do. So please feel free to ask questions. If we don't have time, I'll put it down. I've asked Wilma to record them. So we'll go through the issues you want to address, all right? So let's make it interactive. And can I have the volume up a bit, please? You don't know how to? Yes. There's more buttons here. All right, can you hear me all right now? Yeah? Okay. A bit of background, so it's valuable sort of hearing what I'm going to say. I was born in Sri Lanka, immigrated to Australia about 45 years ago. It's a long time ago. I'm over 45 years of age, all right? Just for your information. I did my civil engineering degree at Sydney Uni, did honours, and then I did an MBA, and then I did a lot of other courses. I don't practice as an engineer. I'm an executive with land and property information. My passion is helping others. So I'm on several boards, NGO boards in Australia and overseas, and I really enjoy doing that. So I have a lot of experience with people and getting the best out of organizations and the best out of people and teams of people. So that gives you a bit of background. But ask questions. I don't know everything, and I'm glad to say that. All right. So I guess you're here because you are passionate about life. Let me see how many of you really are passionate about life. I have a few. I don't have everyone. I see a few in the front that are not passionate about life. I know you are. All are. But how do we get the best out of life? You know, we can work really hard and not feel fulfilled. And some people seem to sail through life and to enjoy life as they go along and not have as many struggles that other people have. Now, there are reasons for that, and we're going to explore a few, okay? And if you've got any things you would like to know in particular, just let us know and we'll discuss that too. Now, how many of you have gone through experiences in life and felt fearful about it? Let me see. Fearful. And I mean really fearful. Yeah? But what's happened to you after the experience? Are you still alive? Yes, you're still alive. Was it as bad as you thought it'll be? Yes? Some say as bad as you thought it would be. Now that's really interesting that you say that. We'll talk about a few things and we'll see why we say things are really bad. Because just because we have really bad experiences doesn't mean our memory of the experience has to be really bad. Okay, so we'll come to that. But just to start off, I thought for our sessions today, we'll break it up into two. So each day I'll break it up into two smaller sessions, so it's easy to discuss them. And I realized the mind can absorb only what the seat can take. So I'm not going to make it long, we're going to make it short, okay? So today I thought of talking about feeling your fear and doing it anyhow. Now, when we try to do something, we try and assess what the risks are. Are we going to fail at it? Are we going to achieve something from it? And if we feel fearful, we tend not to do stuff because we think the risk is too high. And that is a good thing to have, because if we don't have a good frontal lobe that can assess risk, we're going to get into some very risky behavior, and the consequences can be drastic, very painful. Yeah. So, feeling your fear and doing it anyhow. So let's just think about a few things. Fear can lead to inaction. I think we all have experienced that, haven't we? We're so fearful we don't do anything about it. And if we don't do something, we lack that experience. Okay, so if you lack experience, then you can't really go on and do more things till you have got that experience. And the lack of experience increases fear, because the more we fear doing things, the more we are going to get fearful. Just think about that in your life. the more we give into fear, the fear tends to grip us more. And we are less likely to try things in life. But if we feel our fear and we do something about it, then we have a different outcome. Unless you do something, you'll only have the outcome that you've got in your mind. So if we have fear and we have action, we have experience, and experience gives us wisdom. Now that's where we all want to go, because in doing anything in life, if we have wisdom about doing it, we are going to get a much better outcome. And this whole process of living is to continue to give us more and more wisdom. Yep. And if we have more wisdom, we will decrease our fear and increase our success. So that's one thing that we really need to come to terms with. Feel your fear and do it anyhow. Assess the risks, but don't stop yourself from doing it, because it becomes a negative cycle. Now, how many of you have done things that you've been really scared about? Let me see. Okay? Tell me some of the things you've done. Okay? Tell me some of the things you've done. Anyone? Public speaking. Yeah, lots of people are scared about public speaking. Yeah? But what happened after you did your speaking?
I trembled the whole way through.
You what? Trembled all the way through?
My knees knocked the whole time.
Your knees knocked the whole time, but you made it through. See, that's the thing. You will make it through. Most things in life never ends in disaster. Okay, someone else? Anyone else who has really experienced something that you fear? Yep.
Performing and singing in front of people.
Performing and singing.
The more you do it, the more you experience it, the more you get confidence, the more you can keep doing it. But the nerves never go away, and if they do, you should stop. Thank you.
Now that's another really interesting insight. The nerves never go away, but you have learned to manage your nerves. Yeah? But if you never tried, you wouldn't have found that out.
They don't go away with public speaking either.
They don't go with public speaking either. So hang on, this is a really great insight. Because fear is a good thing. Right? It stops you from doing crazy things. But if you don't learn to manage it, it'll stop you from living life. Okay, anyone else? Yep.
A fear of not having a helper to help me through life.
Say that again?
A fear of not having a helper with life.
Oh, that's interesting. Now, I'd like that idea. So if your fear is of not having a helper, like God, you mean? Or someone else?
Being alone.
Being alone. Okay, actually very interesting. How many of you are fearful of being alone? Let me see that. Yeah, I see a few hands going up.
I used to be.
Sorry? Oh, you want to say something? Yep. So, being fearful of being alone is a big thing. Yep.
Once you're alone long enough, well, you kind of get used to it, but you also learn that you're never really alone if you've got God.
Thank you. Now that's a lot of insight there, isn't it? People who are really fearful and don't have God, imagine this scenario, and people who don't know God, what is their outcome? Certainly not what you and I would experience. So, being fearful of being alone is not a bad thing at all. It's how we manage this. Everything in life is not about what happens in life, it's about how we respond to that. Yeah? And everyone here will respond differently.
A couple of times I've spoken with the principal about a student's report about the behaviour in the classroom and how they didn't like the way that I handled it. And I got to understand that kids have the upper hand when it comes to classroom management. And a couple of times I can recall hoping that a parent wouldn't come and complain so that I would end up in a courtroom and losing a job. And that was a fear where I can recall a couple of nights where I couldn't sleep
Thank you for that. So you can see we have different fears. Everyone has a different type of fear. Can I just ask a question from Desiree, please? What happened to your fears? Was it real? Did it happen? Did you go to court and did you lose your job?
No, but I just knew that right at the beginning that was always a possibility. And no, it didn't eventuate. The parent never complained. But I do recall thinking, oh, I have to recognise this and be very aware of it.
Thank you. Now, 95% of the fears we have never eventuate. Thank you for saying that. But that's the truth of it. But really, worrying about fear and being concerned about fear is an important thing. But most of our fears never take place.
Years ago, I was in domestic violence. Now, I think the fear there is very real.
Thank you. It is very real. But let me go a bit further. What did you do about it? And what was the outcome?
Well, I stayed in it for 10 years because I was fearful of what he would do if I left, because he used to threaten me. But eventually I asked God what I should do, and he gave me the answer.
Okay.
And I left.
Okay. And what happened?
He followed me for 6 years.
And what happened?
Eventually he married someone else.
And what happened?
Well, he's estranged from his children because of it.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And what happened? I'm sorry I'm doing this because you'll see where I'm going. You weren't hurt physically. You were scared.
Yeah, very
Right.
scared.
Very scared, absolutely. It's so, I mean,
It's a very real fear.
it is a very real fear, and that's why people stay there, because they're too scared to make a move. Yeah?
Yeah.
But again, in those circumstances too, if you make a move, there are support systems that tend to support you.
You just listen to the news, see what some of them do.
Oh yeah, hey, let me just put a bit of a caveat here. We have people who really are evil in this world. Okay, sin has destroyed the image of God in some people, totally. Okay, so when we talk about us being created in the image of God, Satan's greatest victory is for people to deface that image. And we become less human. And that is real. We're living in a world full of sin. So don't ever think that I'm saying there is no real violence, there is no real evil. There is. But what I'm trying to say is, let's try and assess how bad this is and take the right actions. Because I would have liked you to have been out of that situation 10 years before. Okay, that's why I asked the question. Okay, so if we sit down, and this is where we need friends to really talk things through. When we talk things through, the way we see the world changes. Because we never see the world the way it is. We never see the world the way it is. We see it as we see it, through our eyes. Just think about that. Okay, that's why we are scared. We are seeing it through our eyes. And other people will see things differently. So whenever you have a challenge in life, talk to people and see it from a different perspective. The other challenge there is when people talk to us from a different perspective, we get upset because it's different to ours. And it's hard for us to accept that, because if it's aligned, we are happy. When it's not aligned, we feel bad about it. So even when you talk to friends, if the response is not what you're expecting, please take it on board and think about it. It's a different perspective. It will change your thinking.
Just to respond to what you just said, that's good, but not necessarily possible for a woman in a domestic violence situation, because probably by that stage he has alienated all of her friends and family and taken the whole control thing. But anyway, that wasn't what I was going to say. I was going to say that domestic violence, when it's enacted out in physical violence, can be very real. But, and I had a situation where at a changeover of access with my daughter, my ex-husband passed his father the iron bar, and his father bashed me over the head, kicked my head around with his steel toe cap boots, broke my rib, stuck my teeth through my gum here, and that was very real and it was very physical. But what had to happen after that was I needed to put him in jail, and until I did that, they didn't leave me alone. So you have to have action, but please don't ever minimise people's fear in that situation.
Yeah, I think I should separate domestic violence, because that is very specific, and that is beyond most people's comprehension. Okay, but in living life to its fullest, we have to confront fear. So don't take. I'm not here to talk about domestic violence, because that is really a different topic altogether. Yeah, and I'm glad the government is doing something about this. Okay, we've taken a stand. So let me just tell you something. Anyone else wants to say something?
I can actually put a spin on not the domestic violence side, but I was too afraid to leave my marriage that wasn't working. And my husband finally decided, when we bought a new house to move, day before settlement, he said, I'm not coming. I did not have enough courage to make that move myself, but when I went, because I had to, I overcame my fear and life was much better.
Thank you.
So that puts a different spin on it. It's still in the family, but it's not the domestic violence.
Yeah. So the big thing is, I'm leaving domestic violence away because that's a totally different topic. Okay, very deep, and it has really huge repercussions. But in general life, you're always going to come across fear. When you're going to write an exam, you can be fearful. Yeah. If you're driving a new car, even a new car that you buy, because you don't know how to operate it, you might be fearful. Traveling overseas, flying in an aeroplane, whatever it is, we have fears right through our life. And these are good things, because fear means we haven't passed that threshold of experience. Yeah, just think about it. Once you have gone past that threshold, it no longer is a fear. It might be a discomfort, but the level of fear gets reduced. Let me give you an example. How many of you have been skydiving? No one's been skydiving. Are you scared of skydiving?
In our fantasy.
In your fantasy? All right. Fantasies are good because you can experience things in your fantasies. All right, so how many of you would think of skydiving? No one. 1, 2. All right, 3. Okay. How come we have 3 people? The others are really saying no. Is that the idea? 5, 4. No! We've got a clear no. All right. Well, I've done skydiving and I'll do it again. Yes?
There is a difference between fear and going too far. My son has jumped out of a perfectly good plane at 15,000 feet. When he hit the ground, he went up for a second time. And they tried to talk me into it, and I said, you don't want me up there. And they said, look, we've had people throw up on us. We'll take anybody. I said, no, I have a problem with motion. I just can't handle motion. I said the free fall would be fine, but the minute the parachute went up and I started to sway, I'd be unbuckling the harness.
Interesting.
Because my brain implodes.
Right.
So mine isn't fear, mine is knowing my limitations, and that's well beyond it.
Okay. No, that's a good point. You've got to know your limitations, but if you test your fear, you're going to find your limitations. So you've tested and you found your limitations, okay? And I'm not suggesting you go beyond your limitations, but you've got to try them. All right. What's the feeling when you're about to jump out of a plane? What do you think is going through your mind? Sorry? Parachute may not open. Yes, that's right. But I can tell you, that doesn't go through your mind. You're more scared to jump out, all right? But what would you do before you take a flight, or before you jump out? What do you think you would do to minimize the fear that you have? Sorry? Pray, very good. Yes, I can tell you I prayed, yeah. Take life insurance.
I made my son write his will.
Who said that?
Me.
Oh.
I made my son write his will.
Yeah, and I think these are all good things to do, all right? So, yeah, good thoughts. But these are all minimizing the risk, okay, if something goes wrong. But before you get on the plane, what happens? You have a crash course. All right, we don't call it a crash course, but yeah, you have a course. That's right. So you find out what you got to do. Now, it's interesting. Before you jump, everything that's loose on your body has to be removed. Now, why do you think that happens? Sorry? dangerous. You lose it. If you got your watch, it'll get ripped off. Yeah? If you got your glasses, it'll get ripped off. So it's like life, really. When you go through life, look at the things that you don't need to carry around with you. Because you're going to lose them anyhow. Okay? Because life is like skydiving. It's an adventure. Once you're in it, you're in it. You're committed to the end. You're in life now, aren't you? You're committed to the end. There's no way of getting out here. Yeah? So in life, look at the things that you don't really need. We have a lot of stuff that we carry around that we don't need. That's a whole new topic. And most people, I did a tandem dive. So what would you do with your partner before you jump? What would you do? Make a wheel? Okay. What about your tandem partner? What would you do? Just imagine if you were going to jump, what would you do? Sorry? Fantastic! I love that. Yeah, I asked my guy, how many times have you jumped? He jumped 5,000 times. Right, so I ticked the box, he survived. I think he knows what he's doing. Right, so ask people who know what they're doing. If you want to get good feedback. Yeah? What else would you do? What else would you do before you jump?
Check all your gear, it's okay.
Sorry?
Check all your gear, that it's okay, that everything is safe and
Thank you. Check all your gear, and then you get your partner to check it for you too. Okay? So your gear is in place. You don't want to take any risks there. So everything you can manage, you must manage. Yeah? What else would you do? Commit to it. Who said that? Up there? Absolutely. You've got to commit to it, because you can get in the plane, you can get to 15,000 feet, but you don't need to jump. Okay? And they'll bring it down. They won't push you out. Okay? They won't push you out. Right? Well, I'll tell you what else I did. I spoke to this guy and I wanted to find out about his family. I wanted to find out about his kids. I wanted to find out how engaged he was with his family and his kids. How much he loved his kids. Why do you think I asked those questions? Sorry? That's correct. I wanted to know if this guy was into life rather than trying to get away from life. It's like that German pilot. Yeah? And these things can happen. And we would never know unless you ask questions. Yeah? And he had kids, he loved his kids, he did things with his kids, and I thought, no, he's not going to end this the wrong way. Alright? So you got to ask questions. Ask questions before you do stuff. And then you come to the moment of truth. You're sitting on the edge of the plane. How many of you would think that would be a fun time? How many of you think that you would feel your heart beating? Yeah? How many of you? Well, I tell you, all of you would if you got a heart, all right? I tell you. You feel your heart pumping, and you have to make the choice, okay? You've got to tell the guy, I'm ready to jump. Now, this is really a different experience, isn't it? This is really beyond your comfort zone. So you've done all your questions, you've asked, you've satisfied yourself that your gear is right, the guy is right, he's got the right experience. And then what happens? It's up to me. The bottom line in life is, it's all up to you. You can do all your research, all right? You can take all the precautions, but it's up to you. Life is risky. We're all sitting here and we just heard a couple of comments about how life, the risks that we've taken in life haven't paid off. Yeah? So life is risky. We've got to minimize the risk. Don't ever try to avoid the risk or get out of life, but manage the risk. So you're on the edge, you can feel your heart pumping, you really can feel it, okay? And the wind is, because you're traveling in the plane, you don't really feel the wind going past you, because you're traveling at whatever the speed of the aircraft is. So the moment you decide to jump, it takes your breath away. You can't breathe. Why do you think you can't breathe? What goes into your nose? Air just rushes into your nose. All of a sudden you're going from 0 speed in the plane to the speed the plane was going. Yeah, and you think, where am I going here? Okay, you can hardly breathe. In fact, you don't breathe. And then you start to fall. And after a while, you can start to breathe. But remember, as you fall, what happens? Sorry? You get faster and faster till you hit terminal velocity, isn't it? Which means you can't go any faster. And all of this time, the wind is just rushing past you. And it's so noisy because you can get up to what, about 180 miles an hour, and you're just free falling. And I had a cameraman who was filming me doing the jump, and that's why you have the photographs. And what else do you need to do? If you're falling, free falling, what do you need to do? Sorry? You got to pull the cord. So what are you trying to do? You hope the parachute will open. You need to stop, isn't it? You need to stop. So even in life, you can be charging at 100 miles an hour, but you need to stop from time to time. Yeah? Now some people say that I don't know what stopping is, but I do stop. Okay? I had about 2 hours of sleep this afternoon because I've been traveling 30,000 miles in the last month. Okay? And I've been really tired. So I'm glad I'm standing here. I'll be better tomorrow. You've got to stop. So someone has to pull so this thing is, you've got to take action, right? Life is taking action. You've got to do something. I think we've spoken about most of these things, okay? And when we jump, we have to stop. So we really have to work as a team. So what do you think this guy is doing up there? What's he doing up there? Counting what? Counting what? Seconds? Good question. It is related to seconds, yes. What else? What he's saying is to the cameraman, because the cameraman is just free falling backwards. He doesn't know where he is. Okay? At 5,000 feet, he has to pull his cord. Because he doesn't know where he is. He's not looking at his thing on his dial to say how high he is. So that's the signal the cameraman is looking for. 5,000 feet. Because you're jumping from 15,000 feet. Right? And you're going full speed. If he doesn't see the signal, what do you think is going to happen? He's going to come to a stop. But very abruptly. Yeah? So you got to look for the signals, and you got to actually have the right team behind you. Now getting the right team is difficult. It might be simple, but it's not that easy. Because getting people who you can trust takes a bit of time. Okay, so always get the right team so that they can encourage you as you go forward. Alright? So, and look for the signs. It's very easy for us to ignore the signs in life because we don't feel comfortable with the signs. This is a real trap for people because we tend to see what we want to see. Okay? So when someone tells you something that you are upset about or you think is harsh, sit back and think about that because it will give you a real gift. Yeah? So look for the signs. Now I didn't see that, but when I saw the cameraman flip over, I knew it was time to do something. Alright? Alright. So I'm just talking about things here. Alright. So you need time, you need to get the right timing, you need to see things through, learn from your experiences, enjoy the outcome. Sometimes we are so busy living life we don't enjoy the outcome. Yeah? Thank your team and prepare for the next journey. Because this is only one journey. We are going to have many journeys in life. And all I'll say is that the more journeys you have, the richer your life experience. Isn't it? Just think about that. The more journeys you have, the richer your life experience. Yeah. I've got lots of stories. I tell my kids lots of stories because part of what I do is try to do different things each time I travel. So they got new stories. Okay, so what are we doing? What's my guy doing there? He's pulling the cord to release the parachute. Yeah? Now remember, here you're traveling at about 180 miles an